Struggling waitress saw her first love walk in, unaware he was the CEO who owned the restaurant. The clatter of silverware and murmurs of polite conversation filled the luxurious dining room of Maison Solène, one of Manhattan's finest restaurants. Candlelight flickered across crisp white tablecloths, and servers moved like shadows, practiced and silent. Emma Carter, 27, weaved through the room with quiet grace, balancing a tray of drinks. Her blonde hair was pulled into a loose bun, wisps falling around her temples, damp from the kitchen heat. There was a tiredness in her eyes that no sleep could ease, born of long shifts, hospital visits, and bills that came too fast. She wore a practiced smile as she delivered cocktails to a table of tourists, then discreetly tucked a $5 tip into her apron. That bill would be a pill later. Her mother's medication had nearly doubled in price. She said nothing, only nodded and moved on. The hostess's voice cracked faintly through the bustle. "Right this way, Mr. Rowe." Emma turned instinctively and froze. A tall man in a tailored charcoal suit stepped into the dining room, commanding without a word. Broad-shouldered, clean-cut, with sharp cheekbones and a quiet intensity in his dark eyes. His polished shoes made no sound, but every head seemed to turn slightly as he passed. Liam Rowe. Her tray tilted. She righted it quickly, ducking her head as he walked past, closer than she expected. Her breath hitched. Her fingers tightened on the tray. 10 years. 10 years since she had seen that face. Older now, more refined, but unmistakably him. He did not look at her, not even a flicker of recognition. Of course not, she told herself. Why would he? Mr. Rowe is the new majority investor, the hostess was explaining. He'll be visiting the kitchen and sampling the updated menu. Emma ducked into the hallway that led to the service station, hiding behind glass racks. Her heart thudded in her ears. She had imagined this moment 100 different ways, reunions, explanations, forgiveness. But now that he was here, real and close enough to touch, all she could do was hide. When she returned, he was gone, likely in the back. The head chef had been grumbling about some corporate suit coming to meddle. She returned to her tables. Breathe. Smile. Pour. Smile. Clear. Repeat. A few minutes later, a sharp voice rose across the room. "This is not what I ordered." A suited man was scolding a junior waitress, Lena, a college student new to the job. She stood blinking, menu in hand. Emma watched as Liam walked over. "Is there a problem, sir?" he asked calmly, stepping between Lena and the irate customer. The man launched into a rant about overcooked lamb. Liam listened, unflinching, then turned to Lena. "You're doing a fine job," he said gently. Then to the customer, "Your meal is on the house. I'll personally see to the replacement." Emma's eyes widened. Most CEOs would have ignored a floor-level problem or blamed the staff, but Liam had always been like that. The kind of boy who once returned a $20 bill to a homeless man without hesitation. As Liam disappeared back toward the kitchen, Emma watched. His suit probably cost more than her rent, but the way he held his jaw, the way he moved, he was still, somehow, the boy she once loved. The boy she had left without goodbye. Later, as the dinner rush wore on, Emma poured water for a table near the window. An elderly woman in a pearl cardigan reached for her glass and tipped it. Before Emma could react, a hand appeared, steady, calm. Liam. He caught the glass, set it upright, and without a word, took the pitcher from her tray and poured gently, unfazed by the woman's flustered apologies. "No harm done," he said softly. Emma stood frozen, her hands trembling. He smiled at the woman and moved on, never once looked at her. But Emma's lips curled into a wistful smile, because she remembered. A cold night in culinary school, Liam pouring hot soup for an old man with shaky hands, never rushing, always kind. She turned away now, blinking back heat behind her eyes. Some things never changed. And some things changed too much. Emma stood by the espresso machine, her hands wrapped around a warm mug she did not drink from. Across the kitchen's narrow pass window, she could see Liam speaking with the head chef. He moved with confidence, leaning over the prep station, gesturing to the new layout of the workspace. His voice was calm, but assertive. The kitchen staff, usually dismissive of corporate suits, were nodding along. She should not be watching him. And yet, she could not look away. The way he pointed to the spice rack, adjusted the lighting above the plating area, every movement was familiar. She remembered watching him in their old school kitchen, sleeves rolled up, fingers stained with turmeric and thyme, eyes lit with ideas. Her breath caught as the memory came back in full color. 10 years ago. They were both second-year students in culinary school, huddled over a single burner late at night. The rest of the class had gone home. Emma had found a leftover pumpkin, half a sweet potato, a bruised apple, and a jar of ginger. Liam looked at her, brow raised. "That's it? Trust me," she had said. They cooked for hours, tasting, adjusting, arguing over whether to add more apple or less cinnamon. In the end, they created something soft, warm, with a subtle hint of sweetness and spice. They laughed when Liam dubbed it the artist's pumpkin soup. "It's messy and unexpected," he said. "Like you." They made it 3 more times after that night. Once for a school event, once for her mom, and once just for themselves, eating it straight out of the pot in their pajamas while watching an old black and white movie. Back in the present, a voice snapped her from the memory. "We're testing new ideas for the autumn menu," said Chef Mark, fanning himself with a notepad. "Anyone got suggestions?" Emma hesitated. Her first instinct was to say nothing, but something stirred inside her. She raised a hand. "What about a spiced pumpkin broth?" she began, choosing her words carefully. "Infused with apple, ginger, and cinnamon. Smooth, but with a sharp finish. Like a dessert in disguise?" Mark chuckled. "Weird, but sounds interesting. We'll test it." She wrote the ingredients on the clipboard under a different name, Golden Autumn Soup. She didn't mention it was a dish Liam had helped create, or that it held the last good memory she had of being young, in love, and full of hope. Later that evening, during a closed-door menu review, Liam sat at the chef's table with 2 sous chefs and the restaurant manager. Emma, hidden behind the supply curtain near the kitchen door, peeked through the gap in the fabric. She watched as the chef ladled the soup into a small, deep white bowl and placed it in front of Liam. He looked down at it, suspicious at first, its golden hue, the light steam rising, the faint aroma of cinnamon and roasted squash. He dipped his spoon, lifted it to his mouth, and tasted. The spoon paused mid-air on its way back down. His eyebrows drew together. Not in displeasure, in recognition. His eyes darted to the chef. "Who made this?" Mark glanced at the clipboard. "Emma, one of the waitstaff. She used to study culinary, apparently." Liam said nothing. He placed the spoon back into the bowl. His jaw tightened slightly, but his eyes were far away now. She could see it. He remembered. Or maybe he just thought he did. Emma held her breath behind the curtain. Her fingers dug into the side of the storage shelf. She was afraid to hope, afraid he might say her name, afraid he might not. He did neither. He stood up, thanked the kitchen, and walked out of the room. But before he left, he turned back and looked once more at the bowl. Emma saw his hand clench slowly, and in that small, unspoken gesture, she knew something had shifted. Emma adjusted her schedule with quiet precision. She claimed migraines, muscle aches, whatever excuse would pass. When the manager announced, "Mr. Rowe will be visiting the kitchen at 2 p.m., she immediately swapped afternoon shifts for mornings. If that failed, she volunteered for back-of-house duties, scrubbing pots, cleaning shelves, anything to stay away. It became a ritual of evasion, but it wasn't cowardice. It was self-preservation. One afternoon, while wiping down a table near the window, she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection, blonde hair tied back, eyes dull with worry, and suddenly, a memory flickered. Liam, 18, in their school kitchen, flour on his cheek, apron crooked, grinning like a boy who had just discovered magic in a saucepan. He always washed his hands before touching ingredients. "Clean hands, clean heart," he'd say. Emma smiled at the memory, soft, trembling, and blinked fast to hold back tears. She thought she was careful, untraceable, but life had a strange way of collapsing plans. It happened on a Thursday. She had just grabbed a stack of linen napkins from the supply room. Turning sharply around a corner, she nearly collided face first with someone tall. The stack dropped. She looked up. Liam. Her breath caught. He looked down, surprised. His lips parted slightly. But before he could speak, Emma spun on her heel, raised the tray to shield her face, and darted into the employee lounge. Her heart pounded so violently it felt like someone was knocking from the inside. Liam stood frozen in the corridor, brows furrowed. He hadn't seen her face, but something about her, the way she moved, the way she ran, like an echo. "Strange," he murmured. That felt familiar. Before the thought could settle, the manager called him. The moment passed. Emma didn't let herself breathe easy. She doubled down on avoidance. When Liam's voice echoed from the kitchen entrance, she plugged in her earbuds and cranked the volume. When she crossed the lounge and saw him at a far table, she took the longer route, circling the back corridor, head bowed, hair falling like a curtain. And yet, she watched. From behind counters, through cracked doors, she watched him laugh at a waiter's joke, nod thoughtfully in meetings, help a dishwasher carry a tray no one else noticed. It was the same smile, the same heart, and it hurt, because that smile used to be hers. One evening, as she folded napkins in the break room, her friend Molly sat beside her. "Is it just me?" Molly whispered. "Or do you seem different lately?" Emma hesitated, then whispered, "I used to have everything. A scholarship, a boy who believed I could be the best chef in New York, a future." Molly listened, wide-eyed. Emma's voice cracked. "Then my mom collapsed. Hospital bills drained everything. She was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. Dad had already left. It was just me." She looked down at her hands, once used for whisks and dreams. Now they held dishes and tips. "I left him," she said, without a word. "Not because I stopped loving him, but because I loved him too much to let him watch me fall apart." Molly reached over, squeezed her hand. Emma offered a faint smile. That night, she returned to their modest apartment. The lights were still on. Her mother sat on the floor, drawing on the walls with colored chalk, swirls and shaky stick figures. Emma crouched beside her. "Hey, Mom." The older woman looked up, beaming. "My daughter's going to be a famous chef. She has golden hands. You'll see." Emma's throat tightened. "Mom, it's me. I'm right here." But her mother tilted her head. "Are you the new helper?" Emma blinked. "No, I'm your daughter." But the light in her mother's eyes dimmed. She turned back to the wall, murmuring softly. Emma sat beside her, holding a piece of chalk. A part of her wanted to draw too, as if she stayed long enough, time might rewind. But deep down, she knew. What she feared most wasn't Liam seeing who she'd become. It was him no longer being the boy who once loved her when she was still whole. The city outside his office pulsed with light and motion, but Liam Rowe sat still in the silence of his high-rise corner office. The skyline glittered behind him, New York's heartbeat still thudding after midnight, but inside, the only sound was ice melting in a glass of untouched scotch. He leaned back, loosened his tie, and opened the drawer to his left. Inside was a wooden box, its edges worn smooth by time. He placed it on the desk, fingers brushing the lid, hesitating, then opened it. Letters, stacks, all in his handwriting. To Emma, 1. To Emma, 2. Up to 100. None were mailed. Some were short, scribbled on napkins in airports, when memory struck, like lightning. Others were pages long, filled with hope, pain, confusion. He'd written them all in the first 2 years after she vanished. He picked one at random. Read the opening. "You should have told me goodbye. You owed me that." His phone buzzed. He let it ring twice before answering. "Yeah?" he said. "Still awake?" came Jordan's voice, his closest friend, now advisor. "Couldn't sleep. You're thinking about her again." Liam stayed quiet. Then, if she'd given one reason, I could have moved on. I could have hated her. But she left. Like, none of it mattered. A pause. "Liam, it's been a decade." "I know." Jordan hesitated. "You mentioned someone at the restaurant?" Liam leaned forward. "There's a waitress, blonde, maybe 5 to 6. I haven't seen her face clearly, but something in how she moves, avoids eye contact. It's like she's hiding." "You think it's her?" He gave a dry laugh. "No. Emma's probably on a beach in France, married to a Michelin star chef. But still," Liam echoed. He ended the call and stared at the letters. His eyes drifted to the framed photo tucked between 2 books. Graduation day. Emma beside him, in chef's whites, blonde braid neat, smile wide and hopeful. "You said," he murmured, "we'd turn leftovers into gold." The memory returned like a wave. They were sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by scribbled notes. Emma held up a shriveled pear and said, "Even trash has potential. It just needs the right touch. We'll make dishes from what others throw away," she'd said. "That's our soul." It was the last night he saw her. The next morning, she was gone. He leaned back, rubbing his eyes, looked again at the photo. Could it really be her? He whispered. The thought hung, unanswered. The next morning, Liam arrived at the restaurant early, under the pretense of a surprise inspection. Staff greeted him with polite smiles, trying not to get in his way. He wandered toward the staff hallway. As he neared the back entrance, sunlight beamed through a small window, and there she was, the blonde waitress, wiping down the front glass panel, standing at an angle. Her profile just caught the light. He stopped. Everything went quiet. Sunlight touched her cheek. Her hair, loosely tied, shimmered, her shoulders hunched, as if bearing more than trays. His chest tightened. It was nothing clear, just a pull, like hearing a song he once knew by heart. He stepped forward, ready to speak. "Mr. Rowe?" a voice called behind. "The general manager." He glanced back. When he turned again, she was gone, vanished into the kitchen like a wisp of memory. He blinked and rubbed his neck. Just a coincidence, he told himself. But as he followed the manager, that old melody hummed in his mind. He just could not remember the words. Friday night at Maison Solène buzzed with its usual blend of elegance and pressure. Every table was filled, the clink of glassware steady, and the kitchen fired on all burners. Waiters moved in choreographed rhythm, delivering plates like performers in a ballet. Emma was not supposed to be working the floor. But 2 servers had called out, and the manager, half panicked, begged her to step in. Reluctantly, she tied on her apron and moved through the tables with her head down. She had almost made it through the evening unnoticed when a sharp, high-pitched gasp sliced through the din. At table 7 near the window, a little girl, 6, maybe 7 years old, suddenly clutched her throat, face flushing deep red. Her mother stood up so fast her chair toppled. "She's choking," the father cried, panic thick in his voice. The room fell into chaos. A glass shattered somewhere. Nearby diners stood, murmuring in alarm. Staff froze. No one moved. Except Emma. She dropped the tray in her hands. It clattered to the ground and sprinted across the room. "Step aside, please," she said, her voice calm but urgent. She knelt behind the girl, wrapped her arms around her small frame, and positioned her hands just below the rib cage. One thrust. Nothing. Another. Still choking. On the third, a piece of food flew from the girl's mouth and hit the table. The girl burst into tears, gulping air. The mother sank to her knees, sobbing. "Thank you. Thank you. Applause broke out, hesitant at first, then growing. The little girl's parents wrapped her in their arms as Emma stepped back, trembling slightly, breath shallow. From the far end of the restaurant, Liam had risen from his seat, stunned. He had heard the commotion, but it was the voice, Emma's voice, that drew his attention. Now he stood still, watching her. She turned to help clear the mess, brushing her hair back behind her ear. The light above her caught the edge of her face, soft and familiar. His heart stalled. That face, that poise, that voice. She looked up, and their eyes met, for the first time in 10 years. The noise around them dulled. The restaurant seemed to fade, leaving only the space between them. Liam approached slowly, the echo of his footsteps lost in the hush that followed the chaos. When he reached her, he stopped just a few feet away. He noticed her hands, still shaking slightly, and the way she avoided his gaze. Even now, he cleared his throat. You handled that well, he said quietly. Where did you learn that? Emma finally looked at him. Her eyes, the same deep green he remembered, held a flicker of hesitation and something else. Sadness, maybe. She smiled, faint, almost imperceptible. Culinary school, she said. They make you learn all the basics. CPR, emergency response, that kind of thing. Then, after a beat, but maybe you don't remember. It was a long time ago. Liam's brows twitched. He took a step closer. There it was again. Her voice, that undercurrent of meaning, like she knew him, like she was speaking through 1,000 memories only he should have known. But before he could say anything else, the manager appeared at his side, apologizing profusely, thanking him for his patience, offering to comp his meal. Emma used the moment. She dipped her head. Excuse me, sir. I have tables to clean. And then she was gone, disappearing behind the kitchen doors. Liam stood in place for a few seconds, looking at the empty space where she had been. He was no longer sure of anything. But one thing pulsed louder than reason in his chest. That was her. He just didn't know why she was hiding. Saturday afternoon brought a rare break in Liam's schedule. He decided to visit Chef René, his retired mentor and former head of the culinary school. The man still lived in the old Brooklyn neighborhood, a quiet corner time had nearly forgotten. The visit was meant to be simple, a few words, a shared espresso. But fate had other plans. As Liam walked down the cracked sidewalk, he noticed an elderly woman ahead, wandering slowly, clutching something tightly to her chest. Ma'am? Are you all right? He asked gently. She turned, and Liam froze. It was her. Not Emma. Her mother. The resemblance was unmistakable. Emma's green eyes, dulled by age and confusion. Her sweater was misbuttoned, her shoes mismatched. In her hands was a worn photograph. I'm looking for my daughter, she said. She's blonde, a good cook. Her name is Emma. Liam swallowed. I think I know her. Her eyes lit briefly. She handed him the photo. It was a snapshot from years ago, Emma and Liam, smiling in flour-dusted uniforms. He remembered the day vividly, their first full tasting menu. Where do you live? He asked. She gave an address, nearby. Liam offered his arm. Let's get you home. She accepted without hesitation, and he guided her slowly. The apartment was small, behind a rusted gate. Inside, a couch with a worn quilt, shelves of cookbooks, and walls taped with photographs, faded and recent. Then he saw it, Emma, older, weary, but still beautiful. In one photo, she held a lopsided birthday cake beside her mother. In another, she wore scrubs, tying a scarf on her mom. Liam stared at the images. This was the life she'd lived, without him. The woman sat, still holding the old photo. Do you know Emma well? She asked softly, her mind momentarily clearer. I used to, he replied. She studied him, eyes narrowing. You're the one from the photo, she whispered. He nodded. She loved you, she said. She left all that school and Paris nonsense to stay with me. Said she couldn't chase dreams while I was forgetting who I was. Liam's chest tightened. 10 years he'd wondered why she vanished. 10 years believing she left him for something bigger. But no, she had left everything for love. Just not the love he thought. She never told me, he said. She didn't want you to see her break, her mother murmured. She still remembers you. Always. Silence settled between them. For the first time, Liam realized he hadn't been angry because she left. He'd been broken because she never gave him the chance to fight for her. Now he knew the truth, and he knew what he had to do. Later that evening, Emma opened her locker and found an envelope, tucked beneath her folded apron. No name, just hers, written in neat black ink. Inside was a simple ivory card. No embellishments, no message, just a time, an address, and one line. Let's finish what we started. Emma stared at it for a long time. Part of her wanted to tear it up, but the other part, the one that still remembered the scent of roasted cinnamon and the sound of Liam's laughter in tiled kitchens, held on. That evening, she followed the address to an old industrial block on the edge of the city. Her breath formed little clouds as she stepped through the chilly night air, toward a warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside. But the moment she opened the door, warmth greeted her. Soft yellow lights lined the ceiling rafters, casting a gentle glow on the space. The scent hit her first. Familiar, comforting, nostalgic. Pumpkin, ginger, apple, cinnamon. The smell of the artist's pumpkin soup. Emma's hand trembled as she stepped forward. At the center of the warehouse, a single long wooden table had been set with modest elegance. White cloth napkins, simple ceramic bowls, one tall candle flickering gently at each end. 2 wooden chairs stood at either side, mismatched, but familiar. She recognized one of them instantly. It was hers, from culinary school. Liam had carried it for her across campus more times than she could count. A soft voice spoke from the shadows behind her. I remembered the way you liked the lights. Warm, not too bright. Emma turned. Liam stood there, sleeves rolled up, apron tied at his waist, just like he used to. His hair slightly tousled, cheeks flushed from heat, or maybe nerves. He held a ladle in one hand. The pot behind him steamed. Emma could not speak. She only nodded, slowly. He gestured to the small, makeshift kitchen tucked in the corner. I found the old recipe, or what I could piece together from memory. She laughed softly, the sound catching in her throat. You mean the one I never wrote down properly? He stepped closer, voice low. I never finished that soup, he said. Not after you left. I tried, but it never tasted right. Emma blinked. Still too much ginger, she whispered. He grinned. Then it's perfect. And for the first time in a decade, the kitchen was full again. Not just with aroma and candlelight, but with something richer, closure, and something deeper still, hope. Emma stepped into the kitchen, her hands trembling ever so slightly as she reached for the familiar knife. Its weight in her palm felt like memory, solid, sharp, and real. She took a steadying breath. Across from her, Liam prepped the vegetables without a word. The soft rhythm of chopping filled the air, broken only by the gentle simmer of broth on the stove. No sous chefs, no timers, no pressure. Just 2 people, 10 years of silence, and one unfinished recipe. Emma peeled the pumpkin slowly, carefully. I used to rush through this part, she said with a faint smile. Liam glanced up. You always left the skins a little too thick, and you always said it gave the soup texture. He chuckled, shaking his head. I said that to keep you from pouting. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like years. They moved in quiet tandem, each remembering their rhythm without needing to explain it. She stirred counterclockwise. He adjusted the heat. He added cinnamon. She balanced it with apple. Steam curled toward the ceiling. The smell filled the room, earthy, warm, nostalgic. Emma dipped the ladle, tasted, and closed her eyes. It was perfect. They plated it together, 2 bowls, placed side by side on the wooden table. Candlelight flickered beside them, casting soft shadows on their faces. Liam disappeared for a moment into the back room. When he returned, he carried a worn wooden box, the same one from his office. He set it gently in front of her. Emma looked at him, puzzled. "What's this?" He pushed it forward. "Letters. 100 of them." Her fingers hovered above the lid. "From who?" "From me," he said. "To you. I wrote one every time I missed you, which was often." She opened the box slowly. Inside, neatly stacked, were envelopes. Some thick, some thin. All addressed to her. Her lips parted, but no words came. Liam sat across from her, eyes steady. "I never mailed them. I didn't know where you were. I didn't know why you left." She blinked, tears brimming. "I thought you'd be better off not knowing."